Hello everyone and welcome back. Today we're taking a look at a graphics card that honestly feels like a time capsule. This is the NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1050, the original 2GB VRAM model. And somehow, after 9 years, it's still alive, still running, and still cheap enough that you could mistake it for a fast food combo. When it launched back in 2016, it was a $109 entry-level card, perfect for beginner PC gamers. Now, in 2025, you can grab one of these for around $30. $30 for a piece of hardware that's nearly a decade old. I saw one, I thought, why not? And surprisingly, it's still fired up without any issues. No artifacts, no overheating, no screaming fans, just pure 2016 energy. So today, we're going to find out what a 9-year-old $30 GPU can still do. I paired it with a Ryzen 7 570X, a B450 motherboard, 16GB of DDR4 RAM, and a 550 watt power supply. Yes, that power supply could run something 10 times stronger, but the 1050 barely even notices it's there. With that said, let's jump right into the games and see if this tiny card can still hold its ground. Starting with Counter-Strike at 1080p on medium settings, and honestly, the little GPU surprised me right away. It still pushes past 100 FPS, and the 1% lows sit around 77. There are no weird hitches, no sudden drops, it just plays the way you'd want Counter-Strike to play. Sure, the GPU is instantly maxed out, and the 2GB of VRAM is completely full, but this is the kind of performance that makes you forget how old the hardware is. Next up, GTA 5. I didn't go easy on it, I put the graphics on high, and the GTX 1050 just shrugged and kept going. Normal driving and gameplay sits above 100 FPS. If you start causing trouble, blowing things up, or piling up cars, it dips to around 80 frames per second. But even then, it's smooth, consistent, and genuinely enjoyable. Again, the card is maxed out, VRAM is full, but the game never crashes and never freaks out. For a 2GB card from 2016, that's pretty impressive. Then we moved on to Forza Horizon 5, a much more demanding game. I set it to 1080p on the lowest settings, and the GTX 1050 somehow kept things between 60 and 65 FPS. The 1% lows stayed right around 60 as well. Now, I won't lie, the visuals look like you're playing on a toaster, but the game feels smooth, the controls are responsive, and honestly, it's a lot better than I expected. The GPU sips around 56 watts and temperatures hover around 55 degrees. A decade-old GPU staying that cool under full load, that's wild. After that, we tested Hitman 3 at 1080p low. This is where the card starts to show its age. In crowded rooms, the frame rate dips to around 30 FPS and you can feel it. But as soon as you step outside, the frame rate shoots back up over 50 FPS. The gameplay becomes smoother and much more enjoyable. The GPU stays locked at 100% load, pulling about 55 watts. It's playable, but yeah, the age is starting to show.
Right in the head. That's really dangerous throwing stuff around like that. Please, somebody help.
Then we get to Days Gone. This game eats GPU resources for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but the GTX 1050 somehow manages to pull off a solid 50 to 60 FPS in the open world. The movement feels smooth, the world feels responsive, and honestly, it surprised me again. The temperatures and power draw tell you the GPU is working as hard as it possibly can, but the performance holds up.
Come on, come on, come on. Whew. Okay.
He shot me!
Enemy now. That's the last of them.
Next is Dying Light 2, another tough open world game. At 1080p low, the GTX 1050 gives around 50 FPS, and the 1% lows hover around 44. There are no major stutters, and the game feels more playable than you'd expect from a 2GB VRAM model. but the experience stays smooth enough to enjoy. Silent Hill came next, and at 1080p low settings, the GTX 1050 keeps the game running above 40 FPS. Not buttery smooth, but stable. No graphical issues, nothing that gets in the way of actually playing the game. For a GPU this old, stability matters more than numbers, and this one delivers. Then we move to one of the biggest surprises of this whole test, God of War. At 1080p on low settings, the GTX 1050 pushes up to 60 FPS, and gameplay feels great. Movements are smooth, animations look fine, combat feels responsive, it just plays well. The GPU pulls around 70 watts, temperatures sit near 60 degrees, and VRAM is completely full. But the game runs from start to finish without crashing. This might be the moment you realize that the GTX 1050 is still punching above its weight. But then reality hits us again with Ghost of Tsushima. This game is just too heavy for the GTX 1050. At 1080p low, it runs at around 20 FPS. And yes, it stutters. A lot. It loads, it runs, but it's not playable in any real sense. The GPU is doing everything it can, but the game is simply too demanding. Still, the fact that the game even boots on a 2GB GPU from 2016 is honestly kind of impressive. Finally, we wrap up with Red Dead Redemption 2. After the pain I just put the card through, I dropped the resolution to 720p to give it a fair chance. And at 720p low, the GTX 1050 manages around 50 FPS. This is actually good enough to enjoy the world and play through the story without constant stuttering. The graphics are simple, but the performance is stable, and that's what matters. So after all of that, what can we say about the GTX 1050 in 2025? Well, it's old, it's weak by modern standards, and the 2GB VRAM limit is very real. But even with all of that, the GTX 1050 refuses to die. For a $30 GPU, it can still deliver 40 to 60 FPS in a surprising number of games at 1080p low settings. Older titles and well-optimized games like GTA 5, Counter-Strike, and even God of War run so much better than you'd ever expect. Newer open-world monsters like Ghost of Tsushima will absolutely demolish it. But honestly, that's no surprise. If you're building a super cheap PC, or you just want a fun retro gaming project, or maybe you're replaying older titles, the GTX 1050 still has some genuine value in 2025. 9 years later, it still runs, it still plays games, and for the price, it's hard not to respect it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.